A real quick update from this last video where I was showing some initial VGA output on my FPGA. Things were definitely working, but something wasn't quite right. I had two test patterns that would not show up on my physical LCD. They would show up on my PC through the capture device, but not on an actual LCD. And so that seemed a little odd. And then after posting the video, I also noticed that just some of the colors didn't seem as vibrant as they probably should have. And so I was going back and digging into that, and had some of you comment pretty quickly on the channel just about some different things to try. And so I did look at the frequency for my horizontal sync and vertical sync. And one of the things I did just to really dial that in, I was using a 25.2 megahertz oscillator. I did swap that out with a 25.175 megahertz. And if you look at my screen here, this is tinyvga.com, and I've used this site as a nice little reference, but it shows that ideally you're using a 25.175 megahertz oscillator for this 640 by 480 by 60 hertz standard timing. And I believe the NAND example, when I come over here, he was using a 25 megahertz oscillator. And I don't believe he was just rounding that for the documentation, but he was probably actually using an actual 25.00 megahertz oscillator. And the timing then is just a little bit off, not enough to, I don't think, really break anything. But I wanted to just clean that up a little bit. So I did, on my board, pull out the 25.2, I put in the 25.175, and then I noticed there was one other thing in the VHDL that he provided, and this was probably because he was using a 25 megahertz, and I'm using a 25.175. There is this file over here, sync Porch, and when I open that up, this is the code that originally was in there. And this code basically is saying, okay, set the front porch to 18, and this is horizontal. Set the back porch for horizontal to 50, front porch vertical to 10, back porch vertical to 33. Well, if I go back to that VGA documentation, it's actually saying it should be 16 and 48, and then 10 and 33. So the 10 and 33 matched, but he was using 1850 instead of 1648. And again, that's probably because of the difference, the slight difference in oscillator speed here. So I changed mine. I'm using the 25175 for the pixel frequency. And then I dialed these first two numbers in to match what this is showing, 1648. And then I already had the 10 and the 33. With that set of changes, the oscillator and then these couple lines, I noticed that things were just perfectly centered. There wasn't anything that looked off anywhere as far as placement on the screen. Still wasn't getting the two pages that weren't working, the two test patterns that weren't working. Those still were not working. So the final change I made, and this was actually called out by Martin up on the YouTube comments, he had just mentioned that when some of these syncs are active low, that you should not be sending any color information at the same time. That could cause problems on some displays. And so I went back and I looked at the test pattern code, and on some of it, let's see, let me go back over to my test pattern code. Some of this, as I looked at it, had checks in it. So like I would come down here, and for this all red, this is, I think, how the code was when I downloaded it from NAND. This is showing that there is a check right here. This first parentheses set is just basically what it's checking. And if it's true, it puts in 3 ones for the value. So the 3 reds on his board that he was using would be all set to 1. So in my case here, I'm looking at this, and I'm not using 3 bits. I'm using 5 bits, and that gets handled somewhere else. But this would fill in those 3 ones that I map later. But this is a little check, the part I've highlighted, to make sure I'm within the active space and I'm not in the porches, basically. And so that was a safety check there to prevent sending color data when those horizontal or vertical sinks would happen. And I saw that in some of these, but then when I got to the checkerboard pattern, this was not there. It just started out with what's over here to the right. So it was missing that check. So I put that check in there. And then I came down to the color bar pattern. And now keep in mind, it was this pattern number 4, checkerboard, and pattern 5. No, pattern 4 was working, sorry. Pattern 5 was not working. And this pattern 6, black with a white border, was not working on my LCD. Now, I will say adding in this check to the checkerboard makes it look much better. The whites are brighter. It just looks like a nice clean output, much better than what I had before. When I get down here to this one, though, the color bar, same thing. It was missing all of these checks. So I added that to all of these that said, don't actually put in color values here for red, green, or blue unless you're within the active region. I repeated that with the white border, the one that was not working, and that took care of that for all of those. And then I also put that in for the rest of my tests. I just made sure that they all have this check in there. And with that, everything just looks clean. It fits with these 3 changes. So oscillator change, changing to how large the porches are, and that was over in this other file. And then the safety check here, just to make sure I'm in the active area. Again, back to Martin's comment, that has taken care of it. So what you're seeing right now that's running on the screen is just the output that I'm capturing in OBS. And that's coming through, basically I'm going out of the video card. I go through a VGA video switch, and then from there I go into a video splitter, and then from there I convert it to HDMI, and from there I go into an HDMI capture device to USB to my PC. So that is a super long, messy route, but it's coming through just fine. And then here I'll pause and I'll play a video that I recorded on my phone that is just of the actual LCD monitor here, so that you can see that this is also looking good here on this monitor as I play this back. So I changed the oscillator to just a slightly better dialed in frequency. I modified the Porch settings in the Verilog, and then I added in to all the test patterns that didn't have it a check to basically only put out color data if I'm within the active, non-Porch areas. And that's just a quick update. I appreciate all the comments and the things that you all suggested to check. And I think they all helped dial this in just a bit better. And I'm definitely happy with the output at this point.